Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because what happened on the Today Show a few days ago is still sending shockwaves through the entire entertainment world, and trust me, this is one of those moments that will be talked about for years. The day the unbreakable Reba McEntire, the undisputed queen of country, the woman who has survived divorces, plane crashes, decades in the ruthless music industry, and still comes out smiling with that fiery red hair and that steel magnolia strength, finally reached her absolute limit and walked off the set in the middle of a live national broadcast. Yes, you heard that right, Reba McEntire, the same woman who has always handled every interview with grace, charm, and that Oklahoma sweetness that makes everyone love her, stood up, microphone still clipped to her blouse, and walked straight off the Today Show stage while millions of viewers watched in absolute stunned silence. The hosts were frozen, the crew was panicked, and social media exploded within seconds. People couldn't believe what they were seeing, because Reba doesn't do drama like this, she doesn't throw tantrums, she doesn't storm out, but something the host said crossed a line that even Reba McEntire, with all her patience and professionalism, could not tolerate. And when you hear exactly what was said and how the conversation turned so ugly so fast, you will completely understand why she felt she had no choice but to remove herself from that toxic situation right then and there, because this wasn't just a little disagreement, this was a full-blown confrontation that exposed the growing divide between traditional American values and the coastal elite media, and Reba, being the proud Southern woman that she is, was not going to sit there and take it. Not for one more second, and the fact that this happened on the Today Show, which is supposed to be light morning television with coffee and weather reports, makes it even more explosive, because no one saw this coming. No one thought Reba would be the one to finally say enough is enough and walk away from one of the biggest platforms in television, but she did, and now the clip is everywhere, it's been viewed tens of millions of times, people are breaking it down frame by frame. And the conversation about what is acceptable to say to a legend like Reba on national television has only just begun, because this moment wasn't just about one interview, it was about respect, it was about boundaries, it was about not letting anyone, no matter how famous or powerful, disrespect your values, your faith, your family, or where you come from. And Reba showed the world that there is a line, and when that line is crossed, even the nicest person in country music will stand up and walk away. Let's set the scene properly so you understand exactly how this all went down, because the build-up was actually quite normal at first. Reba was there to promote the second season of Happy's Place, her new sitcom with her fiancé copyright Rex Linn. She was also talking about hosting the Christmas tree lighting at Rockefeller Center. She was in a great mood, wearing a beautiful black outfit with her signature red hair looking perfect, smiling that megawatt smile that has melted hearts for 40 years. The hosts Savannah Guthrie, Hoda Kotb, and the others were gushing over her as they always do, because everyone loves Reba. She's genuinely one of the most beloved figures in entertainment. So the first 10 minutes were pure sugar. They talked about her music, her time on The Voice, how much fun she's having acting again, how she and Rex are enjoying working together and going home together every night. Everything was light and fluffy, exactly what you expect from a Today Show celebrity interview. Reba was laughing, telling stories about her mama, talking about Oklahoma, dropping little jokes that had the audience eating out of her hand, and then Savannah Guthrie, perhaps trying to be clever or perhaps just following whatever narrative the producers wanted that morning, decided to pivot the conversation into territory that clearly made Reba uncomfortable. It started with what seemed like an innocent question about Reba's personal life and her engagement, but then it quickly veered into politics, into cultural issues, into the kind of loaded questions that morning shows are not supposed to ask if they want to keep things friendly, and you could see it on Reba's face the moment the tone changed. That famous smile tightened just a little, her eyes narrowed ever so slightly. But she still tried to answer politely because that's who Reba is. She's not going to be rude on television, she was raised better than that. But the hosts kept pushing, they kept probing, they kept framing things in a way that made traditional Southern values sound backward or outdated, and Reba, who has spent her entire life defending her faith, her family, and her roots, finally had enough. You could see her gripping the arm of the chair. Her voice got a little sharper, her answers got shorter, and anyone who knows Reba knows that when she stops being sugary and starts being direct, something big is about to happen. And sure enough, after one particularly condescending remark from one of the hosts that implied people from the South or people with conservative Christian values are somehow less sophisticated, Reba put her hand up, said hold on just a minute, and the entire studio went dead quiet, because everyone knew in that moment that the interview had just taken a historic turn. Here's where it gets intense, because what happened next is the part that everyone is replaying over and over again. Savannah Guthrie tried to move past the tension by laughing it off and asking another question, but Reba wasn't having it. She leaned forward, looked directly at Savannah, and said something along the lines of, you know, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I have always tried to be respectful, but I'm not going to sit here and let you mock where I come from or what I believe. And the studio audience actually gasped, because no one has ever spoken to the Today Show hosts like that. Not in decades. The hosts tried to backpedal. Hoda jumped in with oh no, that's not what we meant at all, but Reba was already done. You could see it in her eyes, that fire that made her a superstar, that same fire that got her through losing 8 band members in a plane crash, that same fire that kept her going after a painful divorce, was now burning bright. And she wasn't about to let it be extinguished by condescending morning show hosts who live in a completely different world from most Americans. She continued, her voice getting stronger with every word, I represent millions of people who are proud of their faith, proud of their families, proud of where they come from, and we're tired of being looked down on by people who think they're better than us just because they live in New York City. And at that point the audience actually started applauding. Because even in the liberal-leaning Today Show studio, there were people who agreed with her. The producers were clearly panicking behind the cameras, you could see crew members whispering frantically, the hosts were looking at each other with wide eyes, trying to figure out how to salvage the segment, but Reba wasn't finished. She went on for another 30 seconds laying out exactly why she was offended, talking about respect, talking about how divided the country is, talking about how celebrities from the South are expected to just smile and take it when their values are attacked, but not anymore, not on her watch. And then, in one of the most powerful moments ever captured on morning television, Reba McEntire unclipped her microphone, placed it gently on the table, stood up with the dignity of a true queen, looked at the hosts one last time, and said I think we're done here, and walked off the set without another word, leaving everyone absolutely speechless. The silence that followed was deafening. For a good 5 seconds no one said anything. Savannah and Hoda just stared at the empty chair where Reba had been sitting. The audience was frozen. Some people were clapping. Some people had their mouths open in shock. And then finally Hoda tried to laugh it off with well, that's Reba being Reba, but it fell completely flat because everyone knew this was not normal. This was not Reba being dramatic. This was Reba standing up for herself and for millions of Americans who feel ignored and disrespected by the mainstream media. Within minutes the clip was all over Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. People were posting it with captions like Reba just said what we've all been thinking, and the Queen has spoken. Conservative commentators were calling it the moment traditional America finally fought back on a major network. Liberal commentators were calling it unprofessional and divisive, but the views kept climbing, 50 million, 100 million, it became the #1 trending topic worldwide, and the best part was that Reba didn't apologize, she didn't back down, she didn't issue some weak statement through a publicist. Instead she went on Instagram Live later that day from her ranch in Oklahoma, still wearing the same outfit from the show, sitting on her porch with her dogs. And she said I'm not mad at anyone, I just refuse to sit there and be disrespected. My mama taught me to stand up for myself, and that's what I did today. And the love that poured in for her was overwhelming. Fans were sending flowers to her ranch, truck drivers were posting videos saluting her, veterans were thanking her for standing up for traditional values. Even some celebrities who usually stay quiet on controversial issues were liking her posts and sending private messages of support. Because everyone, deep down, respected the fact that she drew a line and refused to cross it just to stay in the good graces of the Hollywood elite. Now let's talk about the aftermath, because this story is still developing and the consequences are massive. NBC executives are reportedly furious, not at Reba, but at the producers who allowed the interview to go in that direction. Advertisers are nervous. The Today Show's ratings actually went up that day because everyone wanted to see the clip for themselves, but the long-term damage to the show's reputation among middle America could be significant, because millions of people who used to watch every morning are now saying they're done with the show. They're switching to channels that don't mock their values, and Reba's popularity has never been higher. Her songs are climbing the charts again. Happy's Place got a huge ratings boost. Ticket sales for her upcoming tour are through the roof, because people want to support someone who stands up for what they believe in, even when it costs her something. And that's the real story here. Reba could have just smiled and nodded and kept the peace. She could have played the game and stayed in the good graces of the media elite, but she chose principle over convenience. She chose authenticity over approval. And in doing so she reminded all of us that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stand up and walk away from a situation that doesn't respect you. And that moment, that single moment when she placed the microphone on the table and walked off with her head held high, will go down in television history as one of the classiest, most powerful exits ever witnessed. So what does this all mean for Reba McEntire moving forward? Well, sources close to her say she has zero regrets. She's actually relieved that she finally spoke her truth on a national stage. She's getting offers from every conservative network and podcast to come tell her side of the story. Book deals are being discussed. There's even talk of a documentary about her life focusing on this moment as the climax. And most importantly, she has solidified her place as not just the queen of country, but as a voice for regular Americans who are tired of being told their beliefs are wrong or outdated. Reba has always been beloved, but now she is something more. She is a symbol of courage, a symbol of dignity, a symbol of what it looks like to stand tall when everyone expects you to bow. And years from now, when people look back on 2025, they will remember this as the year Reba McEntire walked off the Today Show and, in doing so, walked straight into the hearts of millions who needed to see someone finally say enough is enough. So thank you, Reba, for showing us that being nice doesn't mean being weak, that being polite doesn't mean letting people walk all over you, and that sometimes the strongest statement you can make is simply getting up and walking away from a table that no longer deserves your presence. We love you, we support you, and we will be playing your music louder than ever, because the Queen has spoken, and America is listening.